Welcome to Using Your Teacher Voice, episode 10. Yes, I know it has been forever since I've done one of these, right? Yeah, right around Thanksgiving or so, I got really sick. I had pneumonia. And that took a lot longer to recover than what I anticipated. Even after they said, like, oh, you're clear, it still took a while to get back up to speed. Then, of course, there was the holidays and, started the new school year, and I have a student teacher, and so, I'm still kind of pretty busy and stuff, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. And today's episode, I do want to talk about my experience with having a student teacher. And I heard last year that I was going to get a student teacher. I guess a teacher candidate, that's the new preferred terminology now. But last year I was told that I'd have a student teacher this semester. And, at first, my first reaction was, I was pretty proud of that fact. When I looked at that, I was like, well, that means that, somebody's looked at me and said, here's a guy that has something to offer, a student teacher, a teacher candidate. He's got, a certain level of mastery, or he's got some skills or some talents and stuff that would be beneficial to pass on. So at first I was really proud of the fact that I got this opportunity. Then I started like, well, but what if I get a really bad one, right? What am I going to do? This could be exhausting 16 weeks or something, or how am I going to, it's like, will it be like, just this laborious kind of putting out one fire after another kind of thing? Or what if this person, went off, got a job next year and, just really wasn't really prepared or ready. And then someone's like, oh, well, they were with Wells. That would make sense, So, maybe I had that fear that maybe I wouldn't be able to do my job well and really prepare this person. And, I think part of me also is kind of worried that, having a student teacher in my room, to a certain extent, I'm going to be evaluated too, right? Because here's a person coming in with an expectation that I've got, some sort of mastery, or I've got a lot of something to offer them, and they're sitting there going, oh, I'm really not getting anything out of this, am I? There was a lot of mixed emotions at first. So over the Christmas break, before I got my student teacher in my room, I did some reading and did some research, and a lot of the things I kept reading, were coming back to this point of being a mentor, mentoring this person and helping them, get better by, mentoring them up. And I think that's a decent term, but I think I'd prefer the term coaching. And unfortunately, I think that, this coaching term may not necessarily, it feels a little weird to say that because that's a new word in our school. That's kind of an approach we've been taking in my school. So it kind of sounds like I'm a company man to a degree. But, I do like that term because I think it implies something that mentoring doesn't. My understanding of mentoring is, being a role model, being there for that person, to provide that support, but, provide them with a role model, something to imitate. And, and I think that's a good word. I think it's a good approach. But I think it kind of lacks something because as a coach, you're actively engaged. You're there to win the game. And this game is student teaching, right? You're there to win the game. And, coaching is a very active thing. Mentoring to me feels a little passive. Being there to be that support, that sounding board, that whatever. But, coaching seems to be a little more active to me. So my student teacher, she got to the room, we quickly spooled her up and, got her involved. And, my approach with coaching her is to start off with, what is she doing right? What's working and what is she doing right? And I know that some people might say, well, you're just trying to boost her confidence, right? Well, I think it's more than that. When I did student publications, and I would sit down with my editors, one of the things that I constantly worked at with them was identifying the strengths of our staff and saying, here's what we can do, and here's why we're going to do it. I had an editor about 3 years ago. It was her second year as editor, and she's looking at her staff, and she's like, gosh, last year we had great writers. This year I don't have many writers, and the ones I have aren't as strong. This isn't going to work. And she was really upset and worried, but once I sat down and we started looking at what we had, we noticed that we had really good photography. And we had, some design elements that we could really build on. So I was like, well, here's what we can do. Here's our strength. Let's play to our strengths. Here's what we can do. Photography, pictures, graphics. So let's take the strongest writers we have, give them some of these showcase pieces. The places where we're not going to be able to really write a lot, let's do some alternative copy kind of things, infographics and Q&As and, some smaller pieces that those other writers who didn't have as many skills, would be able to handle, or it'd be easier for them to work with. And we built on our strengths. And so that's what I'm doing with my student teacher, identifying those strengths and saying, okay, here's what we're doing, here's what's going well, here's what you're doing really, really well, here's the strong points. Let's build on those, and then we can start expanding on them. And by expanding on them, we're either looking at, how to make them stronger, how to make them, even better, but also how to use those strengths to bridge those places where you're not as strong as, where you're just not as strong. Not necessarily weaknesses, because I think a lot of this is experience and is just, just not doing it before, having that opportunity to really manage a class on your own. But building on these strengths then kind of mitigates the places where you're weaker. So, we've been working on that, and hopefully we're making some progress on that. That is beneficial to her. But, for me, I think also this process has been really kind of eye-opening, because even though I'm not in the room every day and I'm not teaching, a full load, I feel like I'm really still getting a lot out of this. And I think that's partially why I really haven't seen like, oh, well, I got a student teacher and I'm not doing anything. I feel that, this is part of why I still feel like I'm really busy still. Again, part of it's because I'm engaged and I'm, actively working on this and supervising and coaching and whatever. That's part of it. But also too, now I'm looking at her ideas, and she's, what is she doing? And, how is that different than me, and how does that engage the students, and does it work, and how can I adapt that to what I've done before? And really, I think it's really setting the bar a little bit higher for me, because, I've been at it for 24 years, but, she's got some different ideas. And if they're engaging the students, I get these kids back. I get these kids back in another 10 weeks. So, if she's done something with them and they're really, keyed in on certain things, and then I just change everything and go back, I might lose some of these kids, or, I lose some of that, some of those benefits that she's built up, right? So it's kind of raised the bar for me a little bit. But I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity, again, for me to really improve some of my strategies, to really give me a better insight on how I teach. And I'm hoping that in the end, I'm hoping that I've helped her out and gotten her into a better place, so that when she goes off and she gets her own classroom for the first time, she'll feel like she's prepared.